Yes, the return. Yes, Kukunach again. Chief Kukunach. I'm the spirit of Stanley Jack Kowalski. While Stanley sleeps and rests, I wanted to let people know that the spirits are everywhere. The spirit world exists, and it's a holding place for people that died long time ago and recently, and they wind up in a what I call a spirit gate in a spirit world, and some remain with the spirit of living people like Stanley Jack Kowalski. Stanley Jack's really tired. He's done a lot of things today, so he's sleeping. But as Chief Kukunach, the seventh Lapu, I wanted to explain that an important story by Stanislaus story is essential. My spirit is just harboring his body, but he is originally Emiliano Selena. There is a clip of him on his Facebook page of Stanislaus of Kukunach on the Facebook page. If you look at the earliest video clips of him going on Facebook Live, he will say that he is Emiliano Selena. And then a few years later, 2017, he transforms as Stanley Jack Kowalski. That's when I intervened as Kukunach, the spirits of Chief Kukunach. I am the seventh from Lapu, a chief that in self-defense killed Magellan, Ferdinand Magellan. So our story is very simple. We are angelic, trained by angels, guardian angels, in the Garden of Eden at the East Gate, where cherubim angels trained to guard the only entrance of the Garden of Eden. So as Chief Stanislaus or Kukunach, there was a period when Kukunach, when I was a little kid, we were informed of a mission that was being built in San Jose. Well, it's called San Jose now, but in that area that was Ohlone Nation, the indigenous Ohlone tribes, and they have built this mission from Mexico City by a guy named Junipero Serra. And so all the Indios, all the tribes here in Stanislaus County, that's what it's called today, we're all curious as young spirited warriors. We were all informed of this building being built by people from the south, Mexico. And so sure enough, I, Kukunach, converted Catholic in Mission San Jose. I was given a Catholic name based on a Polish saint in Europe, Saint Stanislaus. And so I obtained that name as a Catholic convert, and we wore these uniforms, the white uniforms, the red bandana, and the red belt, the bandana. This is how we became servants or part of the mission, the California missions from Mexico City all the way up to San Rafael. But the story of my as Kukunach transforming into Chief Stanislaus or converted Catholic from Kukunats to Stanislaus, we pretty much had to learn these newcomers, new people that occupied our territories, the Ohlone territories, the Yakuts territories, and the Miwok territories. We Yakuts are part of the Yucatecs, Yucatan. And for those who read the scriptures, there is a biblical name, Yucatan, and that's Yucatan, and Yucatecs, and Yakuts. So here in Modesto, Stanislaus County, the indigenous people here we were called Yakuts. But during the gold rush, we were called Digger Indians because we carried the sticks. The sticks was our main tool, practically our daily activities in the valley. We used sticks. And so when the gold rush came, it was that we were called Digger Indians. A derogatory word, digger. So long ago, 1520, Hernan Cortez, he searched for the city of gold. That's what pretty much most conquistadors went to look for, the city of gold in the Garden of Eden. And prior to Hernan Cortez and Ferdinand Magellan was Christopher Columbus, 1492. He thought Venezuela was the Garden of Eden. We come later on to find out it was not, because the Pacific Ocean was very, very, very long and big. And so, but Hernan Cortez, when they found out that Magellan was killed by the first Labu, he disarmed all the Indios, all the non-European, and then retrained and brainwashed them to serve his army from Mexico City. And so the Indios were disarmed. But then by 1540, when a lot of the wild Indians would not convert to Catholicism, a lot of conflict with the new immigrants, illegal immigrants from Spain and Europe. By 1540, an operation, Virgen de Guadalupe, Juan Diego was wearing similar uniform, red headband, white. So it was a status of Indios in the what you would call the Alta California Filipinas Mexico Empire, New Spain. So 1560s, 1580s, 1600, eventually the Mexican Empire, New Spain, was a very, very giant, spread out the Spanish language to every nation that the conquistadors colonized. So if you want to find out how many Spanish-speaking nations versus English-speaking nations that conquered and colonized by Europeans, you will know that Hernan Cortez did a major damage in the Americas, in this continent. And I Kukunach have been trying to explain to the body of Stanley Jack Kowalski, who's sleeping and resting right now, just explaining that I Kukunach converted Catholic in Mission San Jose, and that long ago in the 1520s, Hernan Cortez disarmed all the Indios, and by 1600 the Pacific Rim was civilized. for Christianity or European Christendom. The Spanish Catholics versus the European, what you call Reformation, the Henry VIII, the Martin Luther of Germany, that printed and published Bibles available to every European, and not be kept by just the Catholic bishops or the Catholic higher power man-made. So I, Hukanach, the seventh Lapu from the original Lapu that killed Magellan in 1520s, because Bernard Magellan and Hernan Cortez left Seville, Spain at the same time. Hernan Cortez went to Hispaniola and went to conquer Mexico City, which was formerly called Tenochtitlan. And Bernard Magellan, he went to search for the Garden of Eden, and he found it, but he tried to run the governments or the different tribe chiefs. They were called Datus, and they didn't want him to do that, intervene with the intertribal different leaders of the different islands. So the conflict between Magellan and the first Lapu was that caused Magellan's death. And so the first Lapu, I am the seventh chief Hukanach of Lapus. And so we go back to the story of, from the 1600s, 1700s, and in the meantime I'm going to take a break while Stanley is sleeping and resting, and maybe he'll have some stand stories, but I just wanted to introduce our spirit world. We indigenous people have the spirit world. So a spirit world is just a holding place prior to going to heaven, and we'll get sorted out by the second coming of a wise man that was born when 3 kings or the Magi's visited him, which were our ancestors. Alright, so I'll be back. This is Chief Hukanach. I am the 7th Lapu, and I'll be back.